If you're the type of person that wants to know every single detail before making a big purchase, this video is for you. The people asking about Wi-Fi requirements, insurance specifics, and even delivery logistics, they aren't overthinking it. They're the ones that build professional operations from day one. I placed over 100 machines, and the smoothest installations always came from the operators who had this checklist dialed in before they even ordered. Today, I'm giving you the complete pre-purchase and post-order checklist that'll make your first machine setup so smooth, the property will be begging you for more machines. Save this video because, let's face it, you'll be coming back to it. Step 1, location contract. Here's what you'll need locked down. First thing, never buy a machine without an agreement in place. I've literally seen so many people get machines that are still sitting in their garage without a location to put them in. The second thing with your contract is make sure you actually have an out. Most people are scared to have an out because they think they're gonna get kicked out of the property, but if it's a bad location after 60 days, you don't wanna keep that machine in there for the rest of the year. The out clause is for you just as much as it's for them. The third thing in your contract is make sure you have access hours at all times. If you hire a stalker that wants to work late nights, he needs to have fob access to get into that machine, whether he's a night owl or an early riser. The other thing in your contract is make sure you take photos of the placement. A lot of these managers say yes and then back out when the machine shows up where you initially had agreed to put the machine. By putting those photos in your proposal will concretely make sure the machine is going where you want it. And that is going to be important for you to maximize sales. The other thing you need to make sure is get that person at the front desk's cell phone number. When life happens, you want to make sure you have a personal contact and not just a phone number that goes through during office hours. Now you're probably asking, why does this matter? It matters because this contract is laying down the foundation for your business and revenue potential with this property. Without it, they'll just kick you out tomorrow with no recourse. Having everything buttoned up, like the simple things like photos of where the machine was agreed to go, is going to solidify a relationship for the long term. This one document can save or sink your entire investment. Now, let's talk about some red flags to avoid. The first thing is if people only agree to a handshake deal with nothing in writing, then you should not just walk, but actually run away. Because this simple dotted line where people put skin in the game by signing their name is exactly the type of business partnership you want. A handshake deal isn't going to cut it when you have a $6,000 machine investment. You should also run away if they're really vague about where the machine is gonna go, because the location in the building is paramount to how much revenue you're actually gonna make with that machine. Let's face it, if they don't know the machine's in the basement, they're not gonna go use it. You also want to avoid a bidding war. Some of these properties might try to tell you that other vendors are interested and try to get you into a bidding war on revenue share or some type of commission structure. Stay away from it. Stay to your roots, stay to your core, be honest on what you can provide, protect your margins, and get everything in writing. Step 2, the money setup. Financing preparation. Financing applications, especially some of the partners in VendHub, take literally less than 10 minutes to fill out. With those applications, if you have a good credit score, it's a lot easier to get approved than you think. Make sure you have it buttoned up with your last 2 pay stubs, especially if it's from your 9 to 5, to ultimately build your case. You also want your LLC set up, which biz.ee will set up for you for $250 today, and then register that EIN through the IRS, and that's the same day approval as well. Now, let's face it, some of you don't want to use debt, and I totally get it. So if you're gonna pay cash for one of these 3 machines behind me, this is how ultimately you can prepare to do so. The first thing is, depending on your budget, some of these machines might range from $3,000 up to $10,000. But being able to have that budget ready to rock and roll for when that property says yes and signs the agreement is paramount to success. If you wait a week, that's a week of sales you're missing out on. And so having that $6,000 to $10,000 or whatever budget for whatever machine fits into it is super crucial to be ready to rock when you get that contract signed. The other thing you want to do with that budget is make sure you set aside $250 to $500 to stock your machine for the first time. Don't go crazy with that initial inventory. You're just trying to ultimately fill up the machine and then double down on what actually sells. Because if you go crazy the first time and none of the product sells, then you're stuck with that product as waste, which is ultimately gonna eat up your margins. The other thing to think through is insurance. I highly recommend insurance, and it's only $100 to $200 for that setup, so you might as well do it and pay that, let's say $15 a month on average, to make sure that machine is protected at all times. Lastly, you might want to keep $200 to $500 in an emergency fund for that machine, just in case, let's face it, something happens like a compressor goes out or some unneeded expense where you need a repair specialist to come out and fix it for you. And as you get this machine ordered and installed, you really want to focus on your business banking essentials. The first thing you want to do is open a business checking account. This is not only going to keep the IRS happy, but it's also going to start building the credit on your business instead of just your personal account. With that business account, they're probably going to offer you some type of lucrative business credit card as well, where you can get those points like we do. We use Chase for our routes, but you can get those points and use them for your own travel and vacations that you want to take with your family. Then what you can do with those two accounts is you can link them to a tool that will keep track of all your expenses and your receipts. We are big into digital because we don't believe in having paper lay around, but you can use apps like Expensify that's going to pull in all your expenses and your receipts and keep track of that by category, which is going to have your accountant thanking me someday. The big thing with these types of accounts and why it's so essential once you get your business set up, you never want to mix your personal and business money because it's a nightmare to untangle. Step 3, insurance requirements. Here's what you're going to want to look for when you start to go after that policy for $100 to $200 a month for that machine. You obviously want general liability with an umbrella around $1 million to $2 million depending on your route. I always recommend starting with maybe $1 million liability policy, and then you can increase it as your route grows. The other thing you can look into is product liability. This is usually going to cover your product if someone were to have a reaction or you had some type of expired product that someone's going to bring into a lawsuit against you. You can then look into property damage coverage and make sure either that's covered in your general liability or you add it separately, because this is really going to protect you if something were to happen. We actually had an example with one of our vendingpreneurs where their delivery company installed the machine, and thank God they had this insurance because the delivery company scratched the marble flooring while installing the machine from the pallet scratching the marble during the delivery with the forklift. So this is really important to think through when it comes to property damage of the property where you're putting the machine. The other hidden insurance I highly recommend is inland marine insurance. This insurance, you might think of like marine insurance or inland marine insurance. It doesn't make sense. This is actually insurance for any items that can be moved. So your machines are a perfect target for inland marine to protect your machines if something were to happen to them, because they're technically movable items. The thing you want to do when you get this insurance is set up a certificate of an insurance or a COI with the property. So make sure you're putting the property's address, all the property's info, and creating a COI once you have that insurance policy in place. You can get these from all kinds of players. Obviously, Next Insurance will do a quick one. You got Hartford and Progressive. We also have inside of VendHub a specific program that covers national insurance specific to vending operators. So there's different options for you to ultimately go get this insurance. You just want to be sure when you're talking to these people that don't understand, and this is definitely something like when you talk about Next that they might not understand, is they might put you in the food service category, which is a completely different insurance requirement. You want to make sure that you fall into that vending specific niche when it comes to talking to these insurance brokers, so you're not getting nickel and dimed on your policy. Most properties will want to see this policy and the COI with their name on it before they'll even let the machine show up on their property. Quick pause. If you're taking notes on all this and thinking, man, I wish I had someone to walk me through each step. That's exactly what we do inside Vendingpreneurs. We don't just give you the checklist and say, go figure it out. We literally hold your hand through each phase of your vending journey, help you while you negotiate and review your contracts, and help you avoid the expensive mistakes I made starting out. If you want that level of support, check the link in the description. Now, let's talk about the technical stuff nobody explains. Step 4, technical requirements check. First thing you need to start thinking about is, what do you do for Wi-Fi? Smart machines obviously need internet to run. So if you're trying to get sales, they need to be connected to the internet. There's 2 ways you can do about this. Both of them have different levels of risk. The first one is you can have the machine installed with a router, which will also provide Wi-Fi for you. Now, this is going to be the more expensive option because now you're going to have a monthly data fee, but it's going to be the most dependent action because now you're not reliant on the property to provide Wi-Fi. Now, the second option is if the property has Wi-Fi, you can just connect your machine to the Wi-Fi. The downside of that is if the property loses Wi-Fi signal and your machine doesn't have Wi-Fi connectivity, now you're on the hook and losing sales because of it. So you have two options when you think about it. Do you want to be more control by providing the router on the machine, like the ones over here? Or do you want to connect to Wi-Fi and ultimately take the risk of the property providing the Wi-Fi for you and saving a few dollars a month? The other thing you're going to need to think through is not just Wi-Fi, but these machines require power. Now, most people will think, wow, they take up so much power. The reality is they don't. All these smart machines have an ability to go into sleep mode when they're not running. And so those compressors and the refrigeration will actually go into sleep mode and not eat up power all hours of the day. The other great thing with these machines is they look big and bulky, but guess what? They only require a 110 volt outlet. So just like what you use for your laptop charger, it's the same thing to run off one of these big smart machines. One thing I always recommend with these big smart machines is always use some type of surge protection cord that your machine plugs into to avoid any issues of the machine plugging right into the wall at these properties. The other thing you want to do when you're plugging that surge protector cord into the wall is make sure there's no automatic turn-offs on that outlet. The last thing you want to do is if the machine kicks on for the surge at that outlet to flip off, and now your machine isn't refrigerated and all your fresh items get spoiled. Now, I know outlets are a simple thing, but what really matters next is making sure you have the right space. I've actually seen so many times where people will go take a first measurement, order the machine shows up, and that first measurement was actually wrong. What I highly recommend is always measure once or twice. Measure that first time you're there, bringing that tape measure to the pop-in, but also after you've ordered the machine, go by the property again and just double check that measurement, because that's going to make you sleep at night knowing when the machine shows up, it's going to fit in the space that you want to put it. Standard measurements are around 35 inches wide or smaller. So just make sure, unless it's a Stockwell, that a typical refrigerator is going to be less than 35 inches. So just make sure your standard measurements of 75 inches high, 35 inches wide, maybe another 30 to 35 inches deep. Those are going to be your standard measurements when you do these site visits that most AI smart machines are going to fit inside of. The other thing you need to do that most people don't think about is measure every doorway from where the machine is going to get dropped off out front all the way to where the machine's going to go. Does the machine need to go up an elevator? Is it going to fit in the elevator? Are you going to need to carry it up the stairs because it's not going to fit in that elevator? Does this door open far enough for you to get it through it? All those things need to be buttoned up before the machine shows up on site. The last trick is you always want to have at least 6 inches out from the wall for the machine's compressor to have enough ventilation to pump air in and out of the machine so it doesn't overheat. Because the last thing you want to do is burn out your compressor. So never push the machine all the way up against the wall. Usually have that 6-inch gap so your compressor's got the ventilation required, and you'll be in a golden spot with your machine placement. Now, step 5, choosing your supplier. Let's face it, this is the fun part. There's all kinds of options, as you can see behind me, of which supplier to go with. Now, when you're thinking about verified machine manufacturers, there's obviously some brands I recommend. You got Sandstar, you got 365 Retail, you got Micromart, you got Cantaloupe. All those are good brands. The one thing I just recommend is each location you're putting in a machine is going to be location dependent. Don't get so hung up on which machine brand you should go with. Focus on the location. Think about it. I'm not gonna put a high-end machine that's uber expensive into an urgent care that might be only open 5 days a week and sees 50 patients. On the flip side, if I got an apartment complex with 700 units and 900 people live there, I might wanna load that up with the high-end machines that can really put some throughput through. So as you think of which machine supplier to go with, I challenge you to actually think about what's the location you're gonna put it in? Because all these brands have good things. Like, think about it. Sandstar is a great economically efficient machine. You're gonna get the screen on the top and you're gonna get the AI cameras for a very affordable cost. On the flip side, 365 Retail has all kinds of solutions. They have everything under the moon for what you need depending on the location, but you're gonna end up paying a premium value for that, which is okay if you're like me that likes to pay for a premium value, but it might not be the right fit for the type of location you're putting it in. So always start with the end in mind, not with what type of brand in mind. And that's where you'll get to where you want to go. Now I'll say this, one thing you should definitely do is reach out to all those brands and start doing background research on each one of them. And here are some critical questions you can ask each of them to build out your SWOT analysis on which brands you like. The first main question, besides price, is going to be, what's the warranty on this machine? Are you someone that's going to want a 1-year warranty because you want the cheaper option, and then as a result, in a year when that compressor goes out, you're either going to have to swap out the compressor, hire someone to do it, or get an entirely new machine? Or do you want a brand that's going to give you a 5-year warranty and ultimately swap out that compressor for you at no cost? That's a critical question you should ask these suppliers. The second question you should ask them is, what's your delivery time frame? Some machine brands might take 8 weeks. Well, guess what? That's 6 to 8 weeks of sales you could be doing with that machine to pay it off already. By having a delivery timeline that's less than a month, you're gonna gain an extra month of sales versus a machine that takes 8 weeks to deliver. The third question you might wanna ask, if you're like me, is installation included in your machine delivery? I don't like spending time taking machines off pallets. I want to make the process as passive as possible. So make sure you ask that question. Is installation included? If so, how much does it cost? Because what you might learn is your time is worth money, so you might hire them to install it for you. The last question is, what happens if the machine is damaged during delivery? Let's face it, these machines are smart machines with a lot of technology on them, and they're delivered across the country in trucks. So just like this machine behind me, machines will be delivered with nooks and crannies on them. You wanna make sure, if you're paying a premium price for a machine, that thing has no damage to it, or make sure that they have backups they can ship you right away if this shows up damaged. When you place that order for that smart machine, here's the things you must do. The first is get an order number so you can track delivery timelines. These machine companies are terrible at tracking their logistics. And so if you can get that order number and hold their feet to the fire, I mean, you would think it's like Amazon where you get a delivery number and you can track your package. No way, Jose. That's not how these machine companies operate. So you need to force their hand and get that from them proactively. You also need to confirm the delivery window. A lot of these people will use regional delivery carriers and they are terrible. And get that delivery window from the carrier by just buddying up to them when they call you and say, hey, your machine's gonna be delivered in the next 72 hours. Well, guess what? Why not just proactively say, oh, well, can it be the first off the truck tomorrow? Well, yeah, but the truck's going out at 8 a.m. Perfect. I'll see the delivery driver there at 8:01. You always want to ask for that next step so your delivery window gets smaller and smaller so you're not wasting 72 hours just twiddling your thumbs thinking about when that machine's going to show up. And then don't be afraid to ask how they're going to notify you. Is it call, is it text, or email? Ideally, it's via text or call with the delivery driver. That way you're not working through dispatch, just get an update. You can get straight to the delivery driver and see if he's ahead or behind schedule. Step 6, delivery day preparation. 2 weeks before your delivery, now that you have that order number, you want to communicate that window to your property manager. Always over communicate to your property manager. If the machine gets delayed from the manufacturer, communicate it. If the machine gets expedited, communicate it. At the end of the day, view it as you work for the property manager. You want this to be as seamless and smooth as possible. So always communicate, and I highly recommend starting that 2 weeks out from the delivery window you get from the manufacturer. The other thing you need to focus on with that delivery window is you need to clear out your entire day for the delivery. Life happens with these delivery companies. You've probably ordered a fridge before, it didn't show up on time. Same thing with a vending machine. These delivery companies get behind, get delayed, all those logistical nightmares. So just plan out and block out the whole day for the delivery and the install. That way you're not set up for failure by only blocking out the 2 to 4 hour window they give you. The other little side nugget, which is probably the most important part of when that machine shows up, is carry $20 to $60 of cash. So when that delivery truck shows up to the property, you can give the delivery driver cash to take his pallet jack and bring the machine to exactly where you want it to go in the property. The reason this is important is a lot of these delivery drivers will just set the machine outside on the sidewalk so they can move on with their delivery checklist for the day. If you have some cash and can give it to that delivery driver while he has the machine still on the pallet jack, he's gonna wheel that machine in on the pallet jack versus you having to push it through with some carpet furniture or a dolly. It's gonna be way easier with that pallet jack that the delivery driver has on his semi. So just carry that cash with you on delivery day and give it to them to put it wherever you need to put it in the building. Step 7, the fun part. Installation checklist. Here's what to bring with you on install day. First thing is a power strip. Like I was talking about earlier with the surge protection, you want to use that power strip to plug into the wall. You don't want to plug the machine directly into the wall. The second thing you want to bring is a level. You always want to have a level just to make sure the machine is even once it's taken off the pallet. The third thing you want to bring in is a socket, usually big sockets that have capacity to grip big bolts, because a lot of these machines will be bolted onto pallets. So you can either have a hammer, which you should bring as well, to ultimately break the wood off of the machine so you can get the machine off the pallet, or have a huge socket set so that you can just unscrew those bolts and the machine will just pop off the pallet. So either a hammer and or socket, I recommend you bring both on install day, because each machine manufacturer is going to have the machine connected to the pallet differently. So crossing both T's and dotting both I's with a hammer and a socket is only going to help your case. The third thing, which is the most obvious, is you're going to want your initial inventory to bring there. You don't want to go stock another day so you have an empty machine sitting there after it's taken off the pallet. Stock it the same day. Think of it like a Christmas present. When you unwrap that machine, you don't want it to sit there empty and come back and stock it tomorrow. You want to stock it same day so they can play with the Christmas present that was just opened. That's how you got to think about this. So bring your initial inventory and block out the whole day, because it should take a full day to unwrap the machine and then fully stock it and get your planogram doing sales. The other thing you want to bring is you want to bring some marketing flyers. So usually bring a flyer of 2 products. We call them products of the month. Maybe it's a Celsius and a bag of Tide Pods, or maybe it's makeup wipes and a bag of protein chips. Have it on the flyer say 10% off. Give those to the manager on install day, because the manager is going to be giddy about this bright, shiny new machine. And then they're going to put those flyers up around the office and the building so people know that the new machine is finally here and that people can start using it. The one thing you want to make sure before the delivery crew leaves is you don't want to sign off on the machine until you've unwrapped it. I've made this mistake before. Well, I'll sign off on the delivery driver. He wants to get moving out on his next delivery and move on with his day. Then unwrap the machine from the cardboard and oh wow, there's a dent in the side of the machine. Well, guess what? I signed off on the machine already. This is why you want to actually unwrap the machine if you can before you sign off on anything. Or if the delivery guy's in a hurry, just tell him, hey, I'm not signing any paperwork. You can send it over to me via email for signature, but I need to unwrap this and actually test the machine, make sure it turns on, make sure there's no scratches or dents, make sure nothing's broken inside with the AI cameras, and do that vetting of the machine from literally being driven across the country in a bumpy semi for a couple days before you sign off on the delivery. Step 8, initial inventory setup. Your first inventory order should be enough to get you by. Spend that $250 to $500 in inventory. Go use VendHub or somewhere where you can get product rebates, but ultimately don't go balls to the wall with your first order, because you don't know what that property's clientele is going to want. So just get the machine stocked the first time. And if a lot of drinks are selling off the shelf, that's when you can double down on inventory of drinks. The last thing you want to do is double down up front with a bunch of drinks, but then everyone's buying snacks and fresh food. So always just start stocking the machine with the basics, see what people are gravitating to, and then you can double down on there. So with your initial inventory, do a little bit of everything. Try different things, try different types of foods, not just chips, not just protein bars, but a little bit of everything in between, and see what people are gravitating towards, and that's what you can double down with. And then when you do this, if you're still worried about how to set the prices, here's another little tip. Just go to your local convenience store nearest this property and see what they're charging for soda. And guess what? You can mark it up a little bit, because now that person in the office building doesn't need to leave the office to go pay for the Coke. So they're willing to pay for a little bit more than the convenience store down the street that they're gonna have to get in their car to go buy the Coke from. So don't be afraid to mark it up a little bit more than what the convenience store across the street is charging them for. The other thing you can start thinking through is some smart stocking strategies. The first thing is, when you stock things, put your best items at eye level. This is gonna be where your top sellers are, and this is gonna be where people's eyes see right when they hit the machine. The second thing you need to do is make sure the labels and the bags look full. So if you're putting in chips or even like big bags of candy, don't make them look deflated and crunchy like they've been in your car all day. Fluff them out so they look big and full before you stock them in the machine. This is really important because brand awareness and the ability to make it seem like there's a lot of chips in that bag is going to go a long way when people open that AI smart machine and grab what their eyes gravitate to. The other thing you can do is group similar items together. If you have a bunch of 12-ounce sodas like Poppy or Olipop, you can put those on one row versus your 20-ounce bottles like Gatorade, Smart Water, or your Cokes and Pepsis. The other thing is like all your bars go together, all your chips go together. People love to shop based on category. You don't go to the grocery store and buy a loaf of bread over here and then go to the other side of the store to buy your muffins. They're all in the bakery section. Same concept here when you're stocking your machine. Now, once you've stocked them, you're probably ready to set your prices. Here's some simple pricing strategies that work. First one is, it's all about pricing psychology. Don't be afraid to put your expensive option next to your cheaper option. You might charge a premium for a 16-ounce Monster, but you can put a Rockstar right next to it for 50 cents cheaper. That Rockstar is actually gonna be priced higher margin-wise, but because it's next to the expensive product, it's gonna be viewed as cheaper. The second thing to that, when you market 50 cents cheaper than the Monster, make sure you're using specific decimal points on your price. $3.97 is a lot more lucrative to a buyer than $4. So make sure you're pricing that strategy across all your items. The other thing to understand is drinks sell way more than snacks. So don't be afraid to mark up your drinks. Shoot, these days, we sell premium shakes like Fairlife or any of these high-end protein shake brands for $4.50 upwards to $6. So don't be afraid for those high-end drinks to mark them up because those are gonna be your top sellers. 70% of our sales are drinks, not snacks. Lastly, make sure your planogram on the back end aligns with what you stocked it with. If you ran out of Doritos, so now you're doing Lay's chips, make sure your planogram recognizes that so that the AI cameras don't get confused on what you actually stocked it with versus what your planogram was set up with. That's a key stocking strategy you gotta be aware of. So now that you have it stocked and priced the way you want it to be, let's talk about the operational setup. This is gonna be step 9. Operation is going to be key to your success. This is where the relationships ultimately matter. The first thing you need to do is understand communication is key. Don't give the property manager your business phone number or your email. Give them your cell phone. You can call, text me, any questions about the machine, product feedback, revenue share, whatever that you want to communicate with them, make sure they have your cell phone number so they can get a hold of you. Second thing is create an FAQ with a phone number that could be your actual business Google number that you can put on your machine. If you're worried about any issues, machine being down because of Wi-Fi connectivity, a product expired, or a product empty, make sure you have that business number on the side of your machine for the customers to be able to report issues. That feedback loop of communication is going to be essential. The third thing you need to do is proactively schedule weekly check-ins with your property manager, especially for the first month. That first month is gonna dictate how quickly you can ramp up to maximum sales for that property. Is this a 12-month ramp up or is this a 2-month ramp up? The more that property manager is your salesperson with boots on the ground of that machine, the better. So make sure you're checking in proactively every single week for the first month of your machine install. The next thing you gotta figure out is gonna be your maintenance and stocking schedule. Even if the machine's not doing sales to start out because no one knows the machine is there yet, make sure you're going by that property at least 2 to 3 times a week. The reason this is important is because if that property manager sees you vested in time going by there, even if the machine's not selling anything yet, they're gonna wanna help you promote product by doing marketing campaigns for you. The second thing you can do when you go visit is ask residents, what do they prefer in the machine? What would they buy out of the machine? Getting that feedback loop of products to put in the machine is only going to accelerate the growth in sales that you want to get to. The last thing on every visit is just take a wet rag and make sure with these smart machines, there's a lot of open glass, which is sexy and great as long as it's cleaned. So make sure you're cleaning that every time you go by, and then make sure you're wiping down that compressor at least once a month. Now the fun part with all of this is once that machine's turned on and stocked, you're gonna start making sales. So you gotta start thinking about record keeping literally starting on day one, because sales are now coming in. Make sure you're tracking sales. Make sure you're tracking the inventory costs. Like I was talking about earlier, we use Expensify to track all our expenses by where it's coming from. Make sure you're doing things that are ultimately making record keeping as simple as possible. So not only you can calculate your revenue, which is great, but what's even greater, being able to simply calculate your profits. Profits are the vehicle to your business health. So we want to make sure you have all of the money coming in broken out by the money going out, and your profit margins are maximized to where they need to be. If you just watch this entire checklist, you're already ahead of 90% of people that want to start a vending business. The fact that you care about these details tells me you're going to build this the right way. Save this video, come back to it as you check off each step. And remember, the smoother your first installation, the more confident you'll be scaling up to 10, 20, even 50 machines. Inside Vendingpreneurs, we walk through this process with you and hold your hand step by step. Our members get access to supplier discounts, insurance and finance providers, and most importantly, real-time support when issues come up, because like in any business, they will come up. And having someone who's been there makes all the difference. If you're ready to buy your first machine with complete confidence, click the link in the description to book a call with our team. Thanks for watching. This is Mr. Passive, signing off.